Hey everyone, it's Snowflarky Zemos here, and I'm playing Master Duel, showing off my legendary Ocean Stun deck. This is a deck that was pretty easy to add to my collection because one of the first things I built in here is my favorite deck, Phantasm Spiral, and a lot of the, kind of trap card lineup, and they're in like the same pack as this legendary Ocean stuff, and I'm a huge fan of legendary Ocean, so I figured I'd be building it too, especially since it didn't cost me much dust investment to get additional cards, and a lot of stuff carries over from that. So essentially what this deck is that we use Legendary Ocean, which is an Umi card that allows us to reduce the level of all water monsters in both players' hands on the field by 1. So that means all these 5-star water monsters like Giga Gaga Giga, Terra King Salmon, Legendary Fisherman 2, Numenera Testudo, they all become monsters we can just normal summon out of our hand that are, very powerful for a normal summon. And of course, we got plenty of trap cards and options to disrupt our opponent and slow them down so that these big guys are really more threatening. So with that said, let's be getting into the card by card. Starting off with our monsters, I am playing a copy of Giga Gaga Gigo and a copy of Terra King Salmon. These are level 5 normal monsters that are just the biggest monsters we'll be able to summon for free under Legendary Ocean, and Legendary Ocean boosts their attack by another 200, making them 2650 and 2600 attack, which is pretty nice. A lot of this other deck is stunning and slowing things down. You can see we have 3 skill drain here, so the fact that they're normal monsters isn't that big of a deal. It just also gives them the bonus that they could be searched by Summoner's Art, which gives a little consistency to finding a monster. Pretty nice, so happy to be playing copies of those. Next up is 3 copies of Warrior of Atlantis. Warrior of Atlantis is 1900 attack monster, which is pretty solid, but additionally, it's terraforming for Legendary Ocean. We just discard it to add Legendary Ocean from the deck to our hand, and we need Legendary Ocean to get things going, get our other monsters able to summon, so we want to be playing 3 copies of Warrior because even if we already have Ocean, it's still just a body, which is awesome. Next up, 2 copies of Numenera Testudo. This is probably the best of the level 5s we can normal summon. It's an 1800 attack monster that says neither player can special summon monsters with 1800 or less attack. So being level 5 means it has synergy with our C stealth attack and stuff like that, and also the fact that it just has a restriction on special summoning monsters with 1800 or less attack can be pretty annoying for an opponent, so we might as well take advantage of that when we can. And then next up is a copy of the Legendary Fisherman 2. It's a 2200 attack monster that is, while Umi's on the field, it's unaffected by other monster effects. Pretty nice. And of course, if this face-up card is destroyed, you can add a level 7 water monster from your deck to your hand. Now we're not playing any of that in this build because none of those are really good. We're mostly just taking use of the stun options. And one thing to point out about the monsters is we got a reptile, we got a fish, we got aqua, and we got warrior. So we got several different types, which is important because we are going to take advantage of that by playing there can be only one, which we'll talk about when we get to the trap cards. And that is it for our monsters. Next, we're going to get into our spell cards. I'm playing 2 copies of Card of Demise. Probably a card I'd bump up to 3 as soon as I am willing to commit the dust to a 3rd one. But Card of Demise is very nice. Draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, your opponent takes no damage. During the end phase of this turn, send your entire hand to the graveyard, and you can't special summon during the turn you play this card. A lot of those drawbacks are things we don't have to worry about. We're mostly only summoning 1 monster a turn. We have lots of spell and trap cards that we can set before they would be discarded to the grave off of this card's effect. So, no big deal. Just gets us more cards. And more cards is what we want so that we dig into the answers that are going to help us beat a lot of decks. Next up, we got a copy of Summoner's Art. Add a level 5 or higher normal monster from the deck to your hand. This can grab Gigo, or this can grab Terra King Salmon. Either of those are pretty nice. And there could be an argument that we could go more all in on the normal monsters, maybe cut out a copy of Testudo and Warrior of Atlantis, run another copy of one of these vanillas, another Summoner's Art, something to think about and play around with. Next up, 3 copies of Pot of Duality. This gets us a key card that we're looking for, whether it be Skill Drain, whether it be Goes and Match, whether it be there can only be one. Pot of Duality will get us there. In exchange for special summoning, which, we're not doing much of anyway. Look at the top 3 cards of the deck, add 1 to the hand, awesome. Next, we are playing 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance, another deck I'm playing that can't really special summon from the extra deck too much. At the start of your main phase, banish 3 or 6 random face down cards from your extra deck face down. Draw 1 every card for every 3. So if we banish 6, we're drawing 2. Awesome. Now we can't use any other draw effects, but no big deal. Next, Fury of the Karyushin. Pretty nice card. It's a searcher for Torrential Tribute. And then also, if a water monster you control will be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So Torrential Tribute is a very powerful card in Umi decks, thanks to good synergies with C Stealth Attack, and of course Fury of the Karyushin means that we can turn Torrential Tribute into a one-sided field wipe. Pretty awesome. So we're playing 2 copies of that. Next, 3 copies of Legendary Ocean. We need this field spell to keep our C Stealth Attack online, to allow us to summon our monsters. So we want to see it, we're playing 3 copies. And that is it for our spell cards. Next here, let's take a look at the trap cards. We are playing 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. When a monster is summoned, destroy all monsters on the field. So this card is very nice in this deck because we have a searcher for it, and this searcher also can be banished from the grave, so that Torrential Tribute will only destroy monsters on our opponent's side of the field because we'll protect our own water monsters. But you don't even have to do that because thanks to C Stealth Attack, if we only have a monster or 2 on board, we can often tag it out for the rest of the turn with C Stealth Attack, and then it will be returned at the end phase, so that we don't even lose our monster to the Torrential Tribute monster board wipe. Next up, I'm playing 2 copies of Heavy Stormduster. Best of 1 has a lot more trap card deck running around, so definitely want to have Heavy Stormduster ready to destroy trap cards at the opponent's end phase. And this one can destroy 2 of them for 1 card, so that's pretty awesome. Now you can't conduct your battle phase, but that's okay. We normally play this on an opponent's turn. Next up, we're playing 3 Solemn Judgment. We have lots of stun cards that are essentially just locking our opponent out of playing the game, and if they draw the few outs to them, we want to make sure we have a no button for those outs, and that's what Solemn Judgment is. For half our life points, negate a spell, trap, or a monster summon. Awesome. Next up, 3 copies of Skill Drain. Skill Drain is a very powerful win con for a lot of decks, and this deck can take full advantage of it. Pay 1,000 life points to negate the effect of all face-up monsters while they're face-up on the field, and when effects are turned off, then your really big, easy-to-summon bodies like 2450 and 2400 are a lot more prevalent and have a lot more impact when effects don't matter and only the attacks do. Next up, we're playing 2 copies of Gozen Match. Each player can only control 1 attribute of monster. Everything we're playing is water, so we're not punished by that at all. And of course, it can be very disruptive to a lot of opponents' decks, especially if you flip it mid-combo while they have multiple attributes. You know, they got to get rid of some of those monsters. Pretty awesome. Next up, C Stealth Attack, another big payoff for Umi decks. When this card is activated, you can activate Umi from your hand or graveyard. So if your Legendary Ocean does get removed, you can put it right back on the field. And then while Umi is on the field, this face-up card gains these effects. Once per turn, you can banish a water monster you control until the end phase. This turn, face-up spell and trap cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effect. And that is huge in this deck, because this means your Skill Drain, your Gozen Match, your There Can Be Only One, all of those become destruction proof as long as you have a monster to banish for C Stealth Attack. That is awesome. You know, if they can't destroy these cards, that removes a lot of common outs. You know, they'd have to be playing something like Cosmic Cyclone at that point, which is not guaranteed in Master Duel because it's a super rare that you don't get. So who knows who's going to be spending the dust on that, especially who's going to be main decking it. You know, things like that are very touchy. This banish effect is also just nice because it's one of the ways we can dodge our monsters getting destroyed by Torrential Tribute. So that's pretty awesome. But it doesn't stop there. There's another effect. At the start of the damage step, if your water monster whose original level is 5 or higher battles an opponent's monster, destroy it. So even though on the field these are all level 4s under Legendary Ocean because their original level is 5, they get to use this effect. And basically means that they can just destroy things by card effect. They don't have to worry about beating over things. Pretty nice. We'll take advantage of that for sure. And of course, last in our trap cards, 2 copies of There Can Be Only One. This might get bumped up to 3 when I make a 3rd copy. because it's a very powerful card. Just each player can only control one monster of each type. If a player controls two or more monsters of the same type, they must send some to the graveyard so that they control no more than one monster of that type. So because, you know, we got reptile, we got fish, we got so many different options on our end, you know, we figure we might as well take advantage of that. There can be only one, can just hard stomp so many decks, and, you know, that's important for letting this deck win, and so we want to take advantage of that, and so we will. That's the last of our trap cards. Next, we'll go over the extra deck quickly. The extra deck is mostly just for extravagance fodder, but there are some options here. First thing I want to talk about is Sea Monster of Theseus. Now, this deck has a way that if you wanted, you could put instant fusion in to summon Sea Monster of Theseus, and you could also add in copies of Lapis Dragon, which I play in the more fun version of this, and that will give you access to level 8 synchros, because everything is level 4 on the field, so Lapis Dragon would be level 4, your other big guys are level 4, and that means we can summon White Aura Whale if we did that, which is a huge payoff option this deck has available to it. Also a super rare that comes in the pack with Phantasm Spirals in these, so it was easy to just pull a playset. White Aura Whale, of course, when this card is synchro summoned, you can destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters, and this card can make up to 2 attacks on monsters during each battle phase. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage, and if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can banish one other water monster from your graveyard, special summon this card, and if you do, treat it as a tuner. So in my current build going all in on the stun, I can't get out this card, but all I would have to do is change up a few things, and then accessing White Aura Whale becomes possible. And for that, it's definitely a reason to keep in the extra deck. Very cool. Next, I'm playing a copy of Last Warrior from Another Planet. Given that we are playing so many trap cards, we have the option to play Waking the Dragon, which is just a trap card that if it's destroyed and if it's sent to the graveyard or banished because of an opponent's card effect, you special summon a monster from your deck or extra deck, so you can summon some very powerful cards off of that. Now I'm not playing it in the main, mostly because with Sea Stealth Attack, I find that most of my cards can be protected anyway, but it's always an option, so the extra deck isn't useful for much else, so figured I might as well have it prepared for dropping it in. Last Warrior from Another Planet is just a monster that says neither player can summon monsters, so if they hit Waking the Dragon on an open board, you summon Last Warrior from Another Planet, then they can't summon. Boom. Pretty nice. Next, we got a copy of White Aura Behemoth. Now, Behemoth here is a 3,300 attack water monster, which gives us synergy with our tech. And, of course, when it's summoned, we'll summon you a 3,300 attack token. So, pretty decent option to summon off of Waking the Dragon if your Gozen match was still up, per se, or your other options have been banished from the extra deck. So, you know, figured I might as well keep it around for that. Next, we got 2 copies of Blackwing Full Armor Master, 3,000 attack monster that is unaffected by other card effects. Makes it pretty hard to deal with. You need kaijus, you need to attack over it. It can also steal opponent's monsters with its wedge counter ability, and then at the end phase of your turn, you can destroy all monsters on the field that have wedge counters, which you'll be putting on your opponent's monsters every time they activate their effect. Pretty awesome. Next, copy of Kachikochi Dragon, just a level 4 that the game gives you, and we could technically overlay into it, so yeah, might as well. Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, the ideal Waking the Dragon target, 3,500 attack monster, unaffected by card effects, just means that they have to figure out how to run it over, or they gotta kaiju it, and if they're not prepared for it, you know, a lot of decks will just lose to it. Next, mostly just some filler. Defender of the Labyrinth, Gaia Saber, Berserker the Tenyi. Defender, you could technically put your vanillas in there, but you wouldn't really want to do it. And Gaia Saber, Berserker the Tenyi, kind of in there in case I decided to change things around, go more all in on the normal monsters this deck can play, and then that would allow me to play, say, 3 copies of Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi, which is just a solemn, basically for controlling a non-effect monster, which is what the normal monsters are. So something to consider, and just use it to fill up the space for the time being. That's really it for going over the extra deck. Alright, so let's take a look at the deck in action. Replay here against a match against a game I played with a Synchron player. Now, Synchron, of course, isn't one of the big meta contenders in this, but it is a deck that I've seen being played on Master Duel with a solid amount of popularity, just because Synchrons have more of their tools available to them in Master Duel than in the TCG. And you get a lot of the cards out the gate, so it's pretty accessible. So definitely a deck I've been seeing a decent amount on ladder. So here we go. They're starting first, playing tuning, grabbing their junk synchron. Uh, so not a very powerful board. They're just summoning the synchron carrier and leaving it at that. That's fine. We'll let ourselves go. I'm gonna freely summon my Terra King Salmon and do a 2600 attack damage. I've also got pretty good traps in the hand. Torrential, Sea Stealth, there can only be one, very powerful. So I flipped Sea Stealth attack right away, and there can only be one. So that now I have there can only be one live, and I have Sea Stealth in order to protect it from destruction. That just leaves them to set a card. I can summon Legendary Fisherman for free because of, you know, Legendary Ocean, and it's not stopped by there can only be one. So I attack and blow up their monster, and then they stop my direct attack with Scrap Iron Scarecrow. How obnoxious. So they set 3. I'll use Summoner's Art to grab Giga Gaga Giga, which I can, of course, summon off of this. Looks like their traps can't do much to stop me, other than, of course, the Scrap Iron Scarecrow, which will keep them alive for one more turn. So I will be passing the turn again. Next, they draw. They're going into Junk Synchron here. And that does allow them to go Synchron Carrier. There are 2 different types, and of course, they make Garden Rose Maiden. Probably not what they wanted to make, but what they had to make once they committed to it, just because it is a plant, so it couldn't be a warrior or a machine. Next, they're going into Junk Synchron. Now, this at least has given them 2 monsters, which means with these 2 monsters and their Scrap Iron Scarecrow, unless I top deck another monster, they are going to live another turn. I set a copy of Waking the Dragon, which it looks like I was playing at this time. So it does buy them another turn. Let's see if they have another chance to get something. They do. They top deck Junk Synchron, so they're going to run their play essentially right back, summon the 2 targets. Now I draw Pot of Extravagance off the top, so I'm going to do that. See if I can get another monster here. I don't, but that's fine. I'll just continue wiping the board. Now, one thing that does stink about Sea Stealth Attack is that it always automatically destroys, so I can't get the life point damage in on that attack. Otherwise, it would end. But, you know, a small cost to pay for how good Sea Stealth Attack is. Now they set one more card, something that's not going to be able to save them, so they scoop and give me the game. And that's a bit how it works in action. You just stun them and beat them down. So that is it for the Legendary Ocean Stun deck profile. Definitely a deck I've had fun playing with on the ladder. I really love what Sea Stealth Attack does for these continuous trap card decks that allows them to become indestructible and just extremely hard to deal with. And I really love cards like Legendary Ocean that let you cheat out big monsters on the normal summon. And a lot of these ocean monsters I think are really cool. I love the salmon. I love Gigo. Fisherman is awesome. Testudo. All stuff I like. So very cool that I was able to get a lot of these cards and just play this deck. It's pretty fun and effective enough, and that made it worthwhile to me. So let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Legendary Ocean? Are you doing anything with Sea Stealth Attack? You know, just what are you playing? How's it treating you? And that's it for this one. So with that, I will be catching y'all in the next one. Take care.